Hey TV fans, Board Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about the Night Manager Series 2 Episode 4. Full spoilers from the start of this review, and just to remind you, if you are new to the channel then please give this video a like, also subscribe if you haven't already, and comment on the review and let me know what you think of this episode in the comments. So we follow on from the big game-changing twist of last week with the reveal that Richard Roper is in fact still alive and is posing as the mystery benefactor for Teddy. And there was always this big question of how they were going to follow up with that. And to be honest, they follow it up with a lesser episode overall, really. It feels like the sort of episode which has a little bit more filler. Once again this season, there's quite a lot of characters and quite a lot of threads going on, which I could see some of the connections coming together in this episode, but it does feel like maybe it's a little too convoluted at times. It was still an enjoyable episode and definitely wrapped up or sort of cranked up towards the end of the episode, but it feels like the sort of episode where it's readjusting the pieces a little bit, and it just wasn't as exciting or game changing as the last one, but maybe that's quite natural. But it's one where some of the maybe weaker aspects of the season are coming out compared with last week's episode. But we do finally see the return of Angela Birch, played by Olivia Colman, so we get a bit more of her at the start of the episode. And that makes sense given what the twist was, because she knows the truth of what was going on. And we get quite a punchy opening, which I appreciated. So she's away with her kids and she gets a random text saying you better look at your emails, and she gets an angry email from Jonathan which has the screenshot of Richard Roper alive and well and the caption, "Why did you lie to me?" So quite a punchy hook for the episode, gets us right into it. And later on in the episode, Pine meets her at the airport. It's the scene where he himself is pretending to leave the country as Teddy sees him off, and Angela explains to him why she did what she did. She said that Roper came to her and threatened her and says, if you don't identify a body and claim that it's mine and pretend that I'm dead, I will kill both you and Pine on the spot, and I will also see it then your kids are killed in London as well. She told Rex this, which sort of makes sense as well because of Rex now having knowledge, or he had knowledge before his death, of what was going on with stuff in Colombia. And she says everything was fine until Maya started funding Roper. So more on that a bit later. Pine is mad that Angela didn't tell him and didn't trust him to keep the secret. She explains that she was worried that Jonathan would go after Roper. Turns out she was right. We wouldn't have a show. Or really, in a roundabout way, he's gone after Roper. He's gone after Teddy, and that is kind of the same thing. So the explanation is fine for me. It does feel a bit like it's something which has been written on the fly, like a little bit of a decision that was made because the show returned for Series 2 and they decided to bring Roper back from the dead, rather than something that was maybe plotted out a little while ago. It makes sense, of course, I think, in the moment, but it's very simple. It's maybe not the dramatic explanation I was expecting, but that's fine. It's solid enough. It's how they follow up this stuff at the end of the day. Angela wants Jonathan to wait for her to come up with a plan. He refuses and goes off half-cocked again. This won't be the last time we see Angela, I doubt it, especially because of the end of the episode. And I think Jonathan will need her again. But this is an explosive scene. These two actors have great chemistry. Coleman does a good job of selling all this and the stakes. And it's nice to see these two characters have a scene once again. There's definitely more filler in this episode, like I said. We learn that Maya has been funding Roper's operations and his cover as a supposed dead man, including people linked to him such as his disgraced accountant Sandy, who returns from season 1. Not surprisingly, his wife has given him the boot, and no one can blame him after seeing the events of last season. He meets up with Roper in Colombia. Basil finds out about Maya's ties to the illegal Colombian arms deal and meets with her contact, pretending Maya approved it. So this is more filler stuff that doesn't really impact that much on the main plot. By the numbers, this stuff. We now know why Maya is important, but I just wish she had a bigger role. I seem to be saying this every week. I want to see a little bit more of the Enfermera, a really underrated actress. I'm liking the scenes we're getting with her, but I would like her to have a bigger involvement in the main plot. There's still 2 episodes left of the season, so that could still happen. Not surprisingly, Laurie as Roper is having a blast and steals a lot of the best lines and scenes of the episode, even though he spends a lot of it just kind of monologuing and lounging about. Teddy is more interesting when playing off him, so they have a nice little scene together where they go riding on horses, just like the old days. Roper points out the irony of Teddy being a rare Spaniard to ride like a free man in that region, yet he feels like a prisoner. Tables turned a little bit in that scenario, and I do like that Roper is this villain who likes to theorise about things, and it just makes him a more rich, layered character, I think. Teddy promises that will change soon, brings up his mystery investor, who of course is Pine. Roper wants to know more and says he should be killed once he has outlived his usefulness. Will Roper learn of Pine's involvement in the whole thing? That's a nice little hook. They rejoice how they will rule the continent like conquistadors, which is a brilliant line for Laurie. Roper later lays out his vision to Sandy about providing arms to Colombia, funded by Maya, of course, in return for resources such as oil and minerals. So basically a freedom to run the country, and why stop with one country? Very much digging into some Trump-like modern politics. A little on the nose maybe, but it definitely makes sense with the Roper character. As I said, Roper monologuing is very entertaining in this episode. A lot of good banter with him and Sandy, like the lines about the crocodiles, or I particularly like the scene where he tells the guy he will feed him to his dogs if he keeps telling him everything is fine when it isn't. Such venom in his words there. Roper knows Teddy is lying to him about the investor still being alive, and I do like that Teddy has a little soft spot now for Pine, and because he trusts him, he chooses not to kill him, whereas Roper would be more ruthless. Him and Sandy both agree that Teddy needs to go. Roper tells Sandy to get his son back for him. Also, Danny, of course, who we saw back in, I think it was episode 1, telling him to pay her off if need be, then he's lost 10 years of his son's life. And that is, of course, referencing the mother, Elizabeth, to Becky from Series 1. So that definitely implies that we might see her before the end of Series 2. Hey, if they brought Hugh Laurie back as Roper, they could definitely bring her back for a scene or 2. Pine shows Alejandra the shipping list in a hotel, which means we only really get a brief cameo from Sally this episode, because that's her side of the plot. So this convinces Alejandro it's urgent to take it to the powers that be in Colombia. When he contacts them, he gets a meeting with the Supreme Court judge or someone like that, someone with a lot of power anyway. This gets back to Teddy though. He's got eyes everywhere. Suspicion then falls back on Roxana again as she is making plans to reunite with her mother in Miami. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in, Roxana. When Teddy questions her over Pine, she reminds him that she secured Rex for him. Roxana is then kept under arrest by Teddy, but she talks her guard, who she knows well, into letting her have the phone to call her mum. Instead, she calls Pine, of course, and gives him a coded message letting him know Teddy is on to him. Alejandro is then ambushed at the meeting and arrested, forced into the back of a car. I do like his line when... because basically they know that what he's showing them is a copy of the shipping list and not the original. And he's asked by the official, where is the original? And he says, up my ass, which is a good line. He is heroic in this episode. Pine, once again going rogue, chases them on a motorbike. And this is a cool action scene, which was in the trailer for the new series. He is too late to save Alejandro, who is killed by Teddy, but he goes out in heroic fashion, but does save his driver, who was forced at gunpoint to drive them there. Pine, blowing his cover, flees with the driver and later rescues Roxana also. I guess she's very much earned her place on the good team now. I'm guessing the young driver was one of the young orphans kids taken in by Teddy, by the way, because it seems like that he's a big deal, like what he knows. That's why he's about to be killed when Pine rescues him. It seems then he would have to have quite a big role of importance for him to be rescued in this dramatic ending. Teddy tells Roper the bad news, at which point he demands a picture of the investor. The episode ends with him being faxed a copy of Pine. Yes, a fax, people. I guess this is 2011 all over again. People still use faxes apparently, and you can see where that ending is leading. So this is the new status quo. Pine is on the run with Roxana and the kid, as I'll call him, and Roper, knowing his involvement and hunting him down, sets up that new status quo. With his cover now blown, he is very much on Roper and Teddy's turf, and that makes him the underdog and at a disadvantage in Colombia. And that's why I think he will need Angela again. I think she will once again have to be his ally and help Pine out to get out of this mess. So there you have it. I think it's a very dramatic ending. It was a more middling episode without a doubt. I think they decided to take a step back a little bit of after the drama of last week's. It probably is one of the weaker episodes of the season, but I did enjoy having Hugh Laurie back in the show and a lot of his dialogue and what a great villain he is. And there were definitely enjoyable moments. It just wasn't as good as the last couple of episodes, but what it sets up for the end of the show, I think, or the end of this series, because of course there's a series 3 on the way, I think is really promising and exciting. So let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, as I said. Share me out on social media. And what do you think will happen moving forward with the Night Manager for the end of this series? Also, if you have thoughts on what could happen in series 3, then let me know those as well. You can support me patreon.com/boardnow. Over there you get some exclusive movie and TV commentaries. You also get early access to reviews, and you get some extra clips and other stuff which you won't get on the main YouTube. Or you can support me at as a channel member, 3 different tiers, and you get some exclusive stuff across those tiers also. Or if you just want a free way to support me, why not hit the hype button on this video and it'll get me shared out to many more eyes. But thanks everyone, keep watching TV, keep watching The Night Manager. I'll see you soon. Bye.
He's not a Swiss banker. He's not a Hong Kong investor. He is a British intelligence agent with an indecent habit of getting information people barely knew they had. I want Jonathan Pine.